Real life.
Welcome back to our 12 o'clock show. Shashank Joshi, Anirudh Sapatnekar, and Dr. Harish Shetty, also known as Guru Anna. Lot of questions you all have, and lot of questions we also have. Shashank, straight going to you. There's a lot of accusations against the treatment protocols across the country, and plasma has been removed from the protocol. And a lot of people believe that steroids or irrational use of steroids or indiscriminate use of steroids is the cause for mucormycosis. And that's the new tagline or the byline in the news channels and the newspapers. The black fungus. It has been announced to be an epidemic in many states. One of them is UP. Tell me, Dr. Shashank, are we responsible for mucor? Is steroid the culprit for mucor? What is this mucormycosis? Why has it come up? Could we have done something to prevent it? Or is it a natural course of the treatment for coronavirus?
So, the holy trinity of mucormycosis, steroid, and diabetes has been unusually hyped. And you know that mucormycosis is a very rarest of rare disorder. The term black fungus is a misnomer. It should not be normally used. And there are a lot of internet posts floating, including the one on my name related to zinc. So first thing is that there was just an academic discussion on a group on zinc, and that people put my name on it and put it out everywhere. So I would like to first tell that this mucor is a mold fungus. We have different types of fungus, so it's a mold fungus. It's a extremely rare fungus. Usually it is seen in people whose diabetes is uncontrolled. In COVID, there are four types of diabetes. People with COVID who get diabetes, people with COVID who have steroid use and their sugar goes up, people with diabetes who get COVID and their sugar gets aggravated, and people who have pre-diabetes who get converted into diabetes due to COVID. And when there is a mulio, usually COVID timetable is 2 to 3 weeks, and the recovery timetable of post-COVID inflammation is around 90 to 100 days. So in that 90 to 100 days timetable, what happens is if people's sugars are high, their diabetes is uncontrolled, they are on steroids, and suppose they do not have good nasal, throat, and mouth hygiene, and they don't keep it clean, then they are susceptible to get the mucor. Now, this mucor has not been noticed in the past. In fact, myself, my very good friend, Dr. A.K. Singh, Avdesh Kumar Singh from Calcutta, he wrote a complete review using all the database and literature with Professor Anup Mishra from Delhi on all the reported cases in the world and in India with COVID. And there are not more than 100 cases, and more than two-thirds of them are occurring in India. So we don't know whether this current COVID variant of concern is responsible for the mucor. We don't know whether it is the humidification and the non-sterile water in the humidification which is responsible for the COVID. We don't know whether it is uncontrolled diabetes or steroid which is responsible for the COVID. And there are a lot of micronutrient therapies. And in these micronutrient therapies, people think that excess iron or zinc may be responsible, but that is all hypothetical. So I would not like to make any claim, and I disclaim that post which was there on my name. But having said that, two, three things we must understand that mucormycosis is a preventable disease. And the focus goes very much on our oral hygiene, throat hygiene, and nose hygiene, the need to modify lifestyle. So post-COVID, you get a lot of long COVID or post-COVID syndrome in which you get fatigue, you get tiredness, but it's very crucial that you eat on time, you eat slowly, try to reduce your carbs and fat, try to improve your proteins, try to at least do some form of physical activity and good lung exercises. Ensure that your nose, mouth, and throat are clean. If needed, put some iodine as a disinfectant and clean all your orifices well. Do some neti, do some gargles appropriately. ensure that all your orifices are clean, your sugar is extremely well controlled, and also ensure that if you are in doubt, then go to an ENT specialist or a oral surgeon if you feel that there is something unusual like a blocked nose or some black discoloration, etc. So mucor is seen, it is very rare, and there is a small little epidemic of mucor. We have very good drugs which are there, and maybe also, sometimes inappropriate antibiotics might have also caused it. So two things: without medical advice, don't take too many drugs. Number one. Number two, don't take nutritional supplement just like that, because you feel that you will get protected from COVID. Rather than that, be prudent on diet. Consult your doctor before you take any of these supplements, because some of them will call surplus. You know that some of these metals like zinc, if they are taken in surplus, they may actually promote fungal growth. Or iron and zinc can be a combination which can promote fungal growth. So sometimes too much may not be good. And good hygiene, good sugar control, and right dose of steroids is the key to prevent. But suppose you get mucor, then you have very good surgery available and medicines available. So again, don't go into a panic mode. Be calm and composed. Be rational and systematic. There is, help available. It's a notifiable disease, but it is not a contagious disease. So the myths about mucor, Guru Anna, are: number one, it is not contagious. Number two, it is rarest of rare. Number three, usually it is associated with high diabetes and steroid use. There could be a potential link to oral, nasal, and throat hygiene. The humidification, non-sterility of water is only a hypothesis, and therefore we should ensure that we diagnose COVID early. Similarly, we should diagnose mucor also early and treat it appropriately, either with liposomal amphotericin B or with surgery or both. And if that liposomal amphotericin is not available, there are other drugs available. Now that it is a notifiable disease, most of these medicines will not be available at a chemist or hospital. The hospital has to contact the FDA authorities or the public health department, and they will make it available once the disease is notified. So there is, as I said, there is a cause of concern, but the numbers are all you can count on the tip of your fingers. For example, in Mumbai city, there are not going to be more than 100 cases, or Delhi city, there will be 100 to 150 cases. So it's a very, very rare and unusual infection. And do not use the word black fungus or white fungus. White fungus is candidiasis, black fungus is mucormycosis. Both are misnomers. Predominantly, the black fungus is a misnomer because these are mucor hyphae, and these are something which is manageable but mostly preventable. So the main thing is to prevent mucor, control sugar, ensure that we use less steroids, and keep a very good mouth, throat, and oral hygiene. So Anna, I want to ask you a question. That you see,
I'll
there
just
is
finish. I'll just finish. Shashank. I,
yeah.
one part of the question was: has indiscriminate use of steroids caused this? Because there was a question asked to me: is that not in all hospitals, but at some places, out of fear, people have taken steroids orally on their own, and doctors also out of pressure and fear probably have fired all the guns to save patients. You think this is also the cause for mucor?
I don't think so. So COVID care in the first 2 weeks is the right medicine at the right time. And what is the right medicine at the right time? That in the first week of COVID, rarely anybody needs steroids and should not be used. Number one, steroids orally should not be used at home unless a patient saturation has dropped below 93%, needs oxygen, and has to be shifted to a hospital or a corona care facility. So unless a patient is in an emergency desaturated state where the saturation is below 93% and has to be rushed to a hospital, that's the only need for a steroid, usually after 7 to 10 days. And that too, oral steroid is immediately shifted to injectable steroid. The minimum dose of methylprednisolone in the hospital is 40 milligram twice a day. Dexamethasone is 6 milligram per day. Methylprednisolone is 3 to 5 days, extended up to 7 days. Dexamethasone is 5 to 7 days, extended up to 10 days. So we have to judiciously use steroids. After that, if you want to continue using steroids because you get lung fibrosis, then it has to be done under the supervision of a lung physician. So if you are having interstitial fibrosis or a COVID-related fibrosis later, you might need some nebulized steroids, inhaled steroids, or oral steroids under medical supervision. We have seen, Guru Anna, a lot of people with uncontrolled diabetes. Very rarely we see mucor. I have seen it when I was doing my residency in DM, And I also, you need to understand that a lot of people take steroids for many other conditions. They don't get mucormycosis. So probably it is a unholy trinity of diabetes, steroid, probably the COVID virus, probably a little sufficiency of iron and zinc. All of them are multiple hypothetical factors, and they may all be responsible for this current this thing. So I don't think we should talk of steroids only, but judicious and rational use of steroids is something which is order of the day. Steroids are only indicated when the person is on a ventilator or when the person is on non-invasive ventilator with oxygen. Only then steroids are indicated. Steroids are not indicated in home care at all. There is a link to inhaled budesonide if there is refractory cough for 5 days. So that is something which we recognize and we know. Yeah, Guru.
Thank you. Yeah.
So now,
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you a question that we are in times of crisis, and this pandemic is a never-ending pandemic. And in this never-ending pandemic, two groups are very vulnerable and they are reaching a tipping point. They are close to a hard Guru. Number one is school and college children. There is an indefinite delay in examinations, in the method of evaluation, and that has generated tremendous anxiety in parents and children's mind. That uncertainty is actually very detrimental to mind health. I got a call from a type 1 diabetic for 8 years, and the age of the person is 20. The examination has been indefinitely delayed, and there is no scope of a job happening. And this person said, I have to manage diabetes at home. I'm not able to do physical activity. I don't know when my exam will be held. And at the same time, I just don't feel like living anymore now. Because all the time, because I'm a diabetic, my parents, and I'm not getting access to a vaccine also, because he's not able to beat the app to get the vaccine. So I don't feel like living. Now that's a very serious signal. I told him to contact somebody like you. I gave your number also. They were staying in New Bombay, so they have contacted a local psychiatrist and have started treatment. But this is a very serious concern that multiple factors, when there is a type 1 diabetes, insulin itself, it's a very big trauma. And then to live in the COVID trauma, then to live with the anxiety that examinations are not going to happen, then to live with the anxiety that I'm not likely to get a job, and then to live with the anxiety that I'm not likely to get vaccinated or I'm not getting a vaccine. All these things have crushed this young adult. How do you, Guru Anna, ask such people to handle themselves well? And their parents are also on a breaking point. So how do you handle such people?
I think collective trauma, collective efforts, collective pain, collective interventions, collective sadness, collective agencies have to come. So let me start. Schools are not only there to provide education. They are not there to teach Pythagoras and Shakespeare alone. They are not here to teach economics and accounts alone. Schools and colleges should focus on mental health and have support groups, collective support groups for the youth. And they should not wait for a mandate. They should not wait for a GR. They should not wait for an SOP. They should not wait for an instruction. They should not wait for a farman or a fatwa. Which means that the school should form a mental health group among all sections, non-teaching staff, office staff, teachers, senior teachers, and principal, to look at the mental health of the entire community. A school is a community, it's a village. If big schools are more than 2 villages together, so what are the things they should do? And remember, don't wait for SOPs or guidelines. Start support groups of teenagers. Among school children, there would be some who are coping very well. Because sometimes when you're pushed to the wall, you're doing good. Again, I repeat the story of Yogendra Yadav, the 19-year-old soldier who fought the Kargil war and won the Paramir Chakra. He was a very mischievous fellow. He was a person who always needed a challenge, and he rose to the challenge and got many bullets, but captured Tiger Hill and got the Paramir Chakra. So there would be many in the school and the college who are doing very well. Build a support group around them. Build a support group with a mentor teacher, not only to help the children, but children to help the teachers. Mutual counseling across borders is the need in the pandemic. It's not that the teachers know what to tell the children. Children will also give some very innovative advice for teachers. So we're all a family, age, caste, sex, religion, no bar. That is one thing. What are universities doing in the country? Mandate this also. Support groups. I did not like the Bombay High Court saying, what are you doing with the 10th standard exams? I differ from their statements which they made a few days ago. What do you mean? What are you doing for the 10th standard exams? This is not a time for exams, and state board exams are not ability tracking exams, they are promotional exams. So, courts, universities, thinking groups should focus on mental health and support groups and collective action. At the same time, children cannot be isolated from their families. And as teachers talk to the children or children talk to the teachers, they don't talk as a family. Have parent support groups. You don't teach subjects, no issues at all. No issues at all. Whether law college or any college, don't talk about exams ka date postpone karenge. Exams abhi hoga. Are yaar, counseling support groups start karo. Let children attend them, not maybe on Android, even maybe on phone. Doordarshan should promote a lot of activities for mental health of the youth. All the channels, instead of showing only bodies for cremation, should start these activities. I know funeral pyres attract TRP. Burials don't. So that is the big initiative which we need to start. You cannot handle individually, one child, one parent. There's a lot of power when the group works, and probably some who are at high risk may need individual attention. Remember, it's not the psychiatric attention alone. It's the psychological attention which is necessary for a large number, and few would require psychiatric attention. Having said that, Shashank, you have really touched a raw chord in my heart. And colleges and schools should not operate in isolation. Neighbor schools, 10 principals coming together and helping 10,000 kids.
So
There's no competition. No, one sec. There's no competition here. At the same time, some protocols to be circulated. If this is happening, then you need to go to a psychiatrist. If this is happening, you need to talk to a helpline. If this is happening, a psychologist. But only this is there, join the support group. And my dear Shashank, we are going to start support groups very soon. We are formulating the numbers of psychiatrists and psychologists for grief victims and others. So that is one part of the story. Second part of the story is, again, I would say, there is no harm in sharing tears on the screen. We don't want Americans to tell us what tears they are, natural or crocodile. And so MLAs and MPs are also leaders of the communities. A panchayat, sarpanch, and an Anganwadi worker are leaders of the communities. And as somebody said, and if you actually remember, Shashank, this movie, Anurodh, have you seen that movie, Shashank?
No.
No, I'll just share this and you can interject, because I like the way you provoke. तुम बेसहारा हो तो किसी का सहारा बनो, तुमको अपने आप ही सहारा मिल जाएगा. Well, when you're down, you be a support from others, you get support. So a lot of creative endeavors. And Shashank, you are interjecting.
So, Guru Anna, my question to you is that, with so much of anguish and anxiety because of examinations, I'm asking you a further corollary to this question. Number one, if you were the Chief Minister or Prime Minister, would you promote all the children and adults for this year, number one, without an exam? Number two, has the time come for homeschooling? Because the rate at which we are vaccinating, and that vaccines are not being available for children, and children being the potential sources of COVID transmission. Do you think that we should now look at a e-school or a virtual school, number one? Because homeschooling was picking up in some parts of geographies of the world. So is it time for the current pandemic homeschooling a solution? Because it is not an easy solution at all. It needs a lot of attention, and it hampers and has become a disruptor. Number two, the exam anxiety is very high. So if you were in positions to make a decision from a psychological or a mental health standpoint, do you think it is a wise idea to just promote all the children?
Thank you for this question, Shashank. I'm so happy that you asked question. We need to look at layers. You can't scrap NEET for MBBS and PG. You can't scrap CLAT. You can't scrap NATA for architecture. These exams have to be held. They may be postponed. There may be a gap year. I do not know. But the point I was making to a student who was very upset that his NEET has been postponed was, I told him, you are ready for the exam and you're very angry and frustrated. I cannot understand how you feel because you will be angry and frustrated. But the point is, my dear friend, in between, when you have time, learn some new skills. Join Coursera and learn mental health well-being. Google has a lot of free courses. Don't waste your time. Learn skilling. Skilling is willing. At the same time, our work across time has shown that in stress, when you work at home and when you help others, your mind is better. And number three, I will promote all the 10 standard boys and girls. ICS has done it, ICSE has done it, IGCSE has done it, IP has done it, CBSE has done it. Why should the state board across the country in different states not do it? Arre Baba, state board is not an ability tracking exam. It's a promotional, it's a rote exam. Maharashtra capital kya hai? Bombay. That is the exam. If you ask even one line outside the books, they fight. So I would promote, because this is not an exam. This is a practice match before a test match. This is not even a 2020. I don't think that the educational system will go to dogs if you promote everybody in the 10th standard. I think you are saying when you do that we are interested in the mental health, we'll catch up with education later. But the entrance exams, the postgraduate exams, the graduation exams may be held a little later. You never know. It might take some time. It might be 1 year gone. But again, I'll emphasize, parents, institutions, and educationists and leaders should emphasize on this fact that we have postponed our dreams even during the World War. We have postponed our dreams even during the freedom struggle. We have postponed our dreams during the last pandemic. We have postponed our dreams during the partition in many parts of the country. एक वर्ष गेला तर काय होत नाही. In USA, children don't study after the age of 18, but they travel all over. So in India, this entire philosophy of not wasting a year is absolutely stupid, feudal, and irrational. So I would say SSC, I would let them go. 12th, I would wait till conducive condition. But I will not do an online exam. I don't like a copying exam. And if the courts can have virtual sittings and they want 10 standard to appear for exams, why should 10 standard kids take the risk now? So I pray to the Bombay High Court to revise their statements they made in the court. I would pray to the Bombay High Court to look at 360 degrees, 720 degrees, and allow the 10 standard exams to be scrapped and let people pass. I would ask the CBSE board, who has sent a 27-page circular of telling all the schools that they should take an average of the 10 standard results in the schools across 3 years. Well, I think it is stupid. It is stupid. Let the 10 standard go. If all the boards have allowed them to go, let the state boards also go. So I would say, let us be mindful of which course you're handling. There will be a delay, unexpected, unprecedented, uncertain, but that is it. Accept the fact, and parents, if they help the children accept the fact, Papa figures help them to accept the fact, universities and colleges help them to accept the fact, then it will be easy. Then it will be easier. And lastly, my dear Shashank, a lot of educationists say that children are aspirational and you are screwing their aspirations. No, it is the teachers and the principals who believe that we can still do it. पॉज बटन दबाओ, जिंदगी रुक गई है बहुत लोगों की, बच्चों को भी रुकाओ, कुछ नहीं होने वाला है. And children will find creative answers if parents and the papa figures are calm and peaceful and mindful of the present state of affairs. And remember, my dear children and students, apna time aega, and we'll put that behind, and we'll again start trudging, traveling, and saying the high fives very soon in our schools and colleges.
So now I am now continuing this question. See, last year also, Anna, you said the same thing. Now, first wave came, we thought now it is all going to be over. Now, this year also we are stuck with the second wave. And now there is a prediction, which I am going to discuss a little later, that there is a likelihood of a third wave and there the children are going to be affected. So now, when will this end? You know, you cannot keep on telling every year the same thing because एक साल गया, 2020 गया, 2020 when का तो band बज गया. That's what somebody has written down on the chat box. So 2020 gone, 2021 in big problem, and 2022 nobody knows. The next so-called third wave is predicted, and they are thinking that people below 30 are going to be hit. That is a prediction, of course. We wish and pray that it is going to be wrong. But the likelihood of the less exposed population is the younger population. And India is all about youngsters and the youth. So, you know, this is the active India. This is the India future. This is the India which is not just, you know, addicted to the net, but it is the India which is the vibrance, the buoyancy, the josh as they call it. And this is the josh of our ethos and population. So, you know, you can't chain them down. And you want to break the chain of the virus, but with the cost of the human cost of containing these budding young Indians, both psychologically and physically, is huge. So it's not an easy thing to say apna time aega. So Guru Anna, what is it that one thing that they need to understand? Because I am telling you, there is a lot of impulsiveness and a lot of impatience in the youth. When things get prolonged, the impatience and impulsiveness actually propagates and goes up in geometric proportion. Last year it was there. They thought abhi theek hai, abhi sab chalu hoega. By the time things had just started opening up, suddenly the second wave came like a bolt out of a blue. And now everybody is again chained in. And now everybody is saying third wave aega, usme again bachcha log ko affect hoega. So, and there is no vaccine on site. So, you know, this all has actually made the problem more complex, Anna. So how do you say that apna time aega, but wo kab aega? You know, 2021 में आएगा, 2022 में आएगा, 2023 में आएगा, हर साल यही बोलेगा.
I'm so happy, Shashank, you're asking me the question. I still remember my visit to Afghanistan. 14 years of war, children had not gone to school for a long time. Every family had lost one person. When I was conducting a session in Kabul in a hospital, every male doctor was crying. We had gone to manage PTSD for doctors and looking at policies for mental health intervention. When I visited a school which was in a thatched place, a school which was temporary, I heard that children have not been to school for years, and that was very sad. When we started a program, a lot of responsible people made big predictions. 6 mahine mein jayega. My friend, psychiatrist from Bengal, said, vaccine aayega, sab kuch jayega. And as of now, you know, I know, we do not know when it will stop. And because of the second wave, we are scared of the third, fourth, fifth, etc. Now, what is also very important is I have given a proposal for starting schools in Bombay. I've sent it to probably you, your committee, schools, and I've also sent to the center, which means once the second wave abates, starting the school and college in a graded manner. For example, the 5th standard attends the school for 2 hours, 1 hour of studies and 1 hour of some fun. After a gap of 1 hour, the 6th standard attends, and 3 classes can attend school on one day, which means every class might get school once a day and the rest they could do online. So that is something we need to start. We need to weigh the debits and the credits, the benefits and the losses, and do something. But the point is, India is affected by the stay safe syndrome or play safe syndrome, because everybody is scared. Everybody said, why was the election held? But if we had stopped the election, everybody would have said, this is a war against democracy. This should not have been done. So we hit on both sides. Other day, a doctor in America said Republicans and Democrats did not fight over the virus. They came together, but Indians have not come together. This is the time when we need to make bold initiatives and start certain activities for students wherein their education can go on. So one module about the school, I've already put it on the blog and I probably have sent it to you. I don't remember. We need to do with college. Now, all this has to be planned with academicians and everybody in mind, taking the responsibility of what will happen and not trying to take pot shots. Oh, I told you don't. I had told you don't start the school, or I had told you to start the school. So it boils down to rising above all our ideologies, all our beliefs, and responding to the situation as one nation with all thoughts as being assimilated and looking at their sense. And we may have to start education in a graded manner, and at the same time looking at the risk and making it very voluntary. I think we need innovative, creative, bold experiments in certain cities, which are pilots, which can be extended. So if you have not got my school module, I will send it to you. And I think we need to look at a very different paradigm. For example, Lebanon had war for a very long time, but we found something known as stress inoculation, stress adaptation. After some time, the world adapts to the situation. And with that, life also goes on. So we need to look at a paradigm where we can start slow, start low, and also initiate educative activities as soon as we can, as the second wave abates, and even when we face the third wave. But political parties say, I will not take the risk because the opposition party will hit us. Medical fraternity will say, I will not take the risk because I'm the head of the association. I don't want my surf cleaned white sadra to have a dot of dirt. This is not the time. This is the time to come together as one nation and find creative solutions. And all of us can be part of the creative solutions. Nobody has the right answer, but a lot of small answers will bring in probably the most appropriate answer, and we'll learn on the way. And now, Shashank, methylene blue. Lot of WhatsApp pictures before methylene blue, after methylene blue. lot of people are asking me what is methylene blue. मेरे को तो नहीं मालूम. हम लोग psychiatrist methylene blue नहीं use करता है. So a lot of this there's a lot of there was a big queue at Nellore in Andhra Pradesh for an Ayurvedic drug. Hundreds of people. I saw it on News 18 Hindi. The Hindi news channels bring news from the remote villages. The English news channels only talk about cities. And when the cops came, they took all the Ayurvedic drugs and sent it for testing. But they did not stop the people walking from different places and going to Nellore. And when they stood there in the queue, they were not following the guidelines. At the same time, we saw temples in Gujarat, temples and temples in Jaunpur in UP doing things which are, I have no English words to say. So methylene blue.
So, let me talk that we are in an era of evidence-based medicine. But when we are looking at a predictably unpredictable virus, we need to look at three things. Number one, what is the level of the evidence? What is the strength of recommendation? Is there some research data done? And is there any hypothesis? So a couple of years back, a lot of people thought that methylene blue is something which is a repurposed drug. See, all these are repurposed drugs. And we know that many of these are used in modern medicine. So methylene blue is a derivative of phenothiazine. It basically converts the ferric ion in methemoglobin into the ferrous ion. So from ferric to ferrous ion of normal hemoglobin. So basically, where is methylene blue used? Methylene blue is used for a condition called methemoglobinemia. Normally, it is given as 1 to 2 milligram per kilogram as infusion. It is given IV, and basically it gets turned into the leukomethylene blue in the body so that the heme group of the methemoglobin is converted back to hemoglobin. That is where the methylene blue has been used. Also, we know methylene blue has been used in psychiatry, Dr. Shetty, that we know that there is ifopamide, neuropsychiatric toxicity. And in that, the chloroacetaldehyde is a noxious metabolite of eposamide. And methylene blue prevents the inhibition of multiple amine oxidase activities. And we give it IV, and it is something which is very useful. There are also drugs like the MAO inhibitors, which is monoamine oxidase inhibitors. What happens?
Antidepressants.
These are antidepressants, and this there is a serious hazard called serotonin syndrome, and many of these antidepressants, including the SSRIs, when they are concomitantly given with the MAO inhibitors, you get this syndrome of serotonin. There also methylene blue has been used. Methylene blue has been used in septic shock and anaphylaxis, and there sometimes the blood pressure goes up. And individuals with but however, methylene blue is not something which is an agent of choice for COVID. So people got very, very excited that this could be one more answer to COVID care. And that's unfortunately not happening. Now, why did people think that methylene blue might have some role? Okay, what is it that it could have targeted? Can it help the cytokine storm? Can it have some role? Is it linked to the cytokine storm? So there has been a hypothetical link. You see, as people know that the kininogen system has a role, the kininogen kallikrein system has a role in the development of the bradykinin hypothesis of COVID. And that looked at a mechanism of bradykinin, which is nitric oxide. And this is something where, a methylene blue started coming in, because this medication may affect the bradykinin by inhibition of nitric oxide synthetase inhibitor and promote oxygen saturation. It is inexpensive and easily available, and that is why suddenly people started getting into this whole therapy. And actually, these ideas came from the peptides, which are snake venom derived bradykinin potential peptides, and we know that they have some of these roles. So mechanistically, if you ask me, this is an attractive purpose. What will come in modern science will be probably nitric oxide spray, and nitric oxide spray will definitely come in some form in research, because we also know that the nitric oxide is something which might have a role in the modern day therapy of COVID in early stage of the disease. Okay, that is something which we know. So fundamentally, methylene blue, probably does it have an antiviral effect? We don't know. Whether methylene blue will be able to inhibit the spike ACE2 protein to protein interaction, that is a spike protein on the coronavirus and the ACE2 protein on the lung alveoli, we don't know. This hypothetically looked attractive, but it has not stood the test of science. And that is why people want to look at whether methylene blue or nitric oxide, could it be the gen next of COVID treatment? The current answer is nobody knows. It is investigational and a research mode drug. Some ongoing trials are going on in that direction, but currently it is not recommended for use. On the other hand, as far as inhaled nitric oxide is concerned, it could emerge as a standard of care. Even India, many people want to do experiments. There are groups in Mumbai which have been actively looking at inhaled nitric oxide, and that could potentially have a role. I also want to tell that today is the World Thyroid Day, and we will talk of thyroid a little later. But just tomorrow or day after tomorrow, Monday or Tuesday, last week, 2 weeks back actually, the Drug Control General of India gave approval for lytic cocktail antibody, the one which the past US President Trump used when he got COVID. So in the first 72 hours, if you get COVID, just like when you get a dog bite and you know that the dog is sick or is rabid, you go and take a rabies immunoglobulin. Similarly, you do this lytic cocktail of antibody, which can be given subcutaneously or injectively in the first 72 hours or 7 days in highly vulnerable groups. And 70% of the time, it can save the life and save the hospitalization. Of course, this will be expensive. It will almost cost 50,000-60,000 rupees. And this is called as the lytic cocktail of antibodies. Regeneron is the original discoverer. They license the product to Roche, and Roche has licensed it to Cipla, so that will be available. So I think we are going to get an expensive early hit early agent in COVID space. Methylene blue is strictly in investigational space. It has uses which are different, but not COVID has the repurposing of methylene blue in the COVID space has not been very robust. And as I said, it's a phenothiazine, so it's not an easy unit to use. It's a very old drug. You will know that this is probably the drug methylene blue was used, in 1891 to treat malaria. I mean, I don't know whether you know that. And in the World War II, it was replaced by chloroquine. Although due to the blue urine it could cause, methylene blue was not liked by the soldiers. Okay, so they used to always say, the soldiers used to always say in World War that even in the loo we see VP navy blue. So that was the favorite. Okay, and this is just anecdotes, but obviously, methylene blue has been a very, very old agent. You may also know that this anti-malarial preparation of methylene blue also got some interest because that in Alzheimer's disease, which is a neurodegenerative disease of your interest, there is a aggregation of a protein called tau, TAU protein.
Yes, 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 yes.
And methylene blue was a part of one of those proteins which could get inactivated. Because you know that methylene blue intercalates with nucleic acid strands. It has an application of light which excites generating highly reactive singlet oxygen. It oxidizes the guanosine, it breaks the nucleic strands, and in presence of light, the methylene blue may work like a broad spectrum virulent. And it also inactivates the viruses in blood products prior to transfusions. So they wanted to use that, and therefore the virucidal activity was there. So people thought that you could have a methylene blue for SARS-CoV-2, and that is where the thought process started. But currently we know that the application between the spike protein of the COVID virus and its cognate receptor, which is ACE2 receptor, at the viral entry point, there is some degree of polypharmacology which may suggest that in presence of some substances, there is a possibility that oral or inhaled possibility has been postulated. So this is all hypothetical, Guru, as we talk, but it is exciting times in the COVID world. We have not been able to get some good treatment options as far as the COVID world has been concerned. And it may not be this like the plasma therapy, so we don't know where we stand. So lot of people are working on methylene blue photochemical technology, and they have developed a compound in China where they developed that compound is called as BX1, and that has been designed to inactivate HIV-1 virus in the plasma. So this methylene blue has a lot of other uses, but in the COVID space, I am not so sure whether it has a role, and therefore the government of India has clearly given a guidelines, including All India Institute of Medical Sciences, various task forces. We don't recommend it. We have said don't prescribe pirfenidone, don't prescribe methylene blue for COVID treatment, because we don't know where these drugs stand, and we don't know that this oxidation. So the simplest way to describe methylene blue is an oxidation reduction agent, and therefore a caution has been exercised, because the first principle of Hippocrates oath is, first of all, do no harm, and therefore I would not sort of rush into this. It's a hypothetical agent. Research workers are very closely looking at the application of the various compounds, and methylene blue is no exception in it, and people are definitely looking at its various novel activity. It's a very, very old agent. It's a very, very old agent, and I hope that in my little anecdotal observations of it, I've given some clarity on the same. So don't be in any rush for any of these exotic therapies in the COVID space. Take it with a little pinch of salt. And as I said, that there are a lot of other uses apart from malaria. Most of the uses are in bipolar disorders, vasoplegic syndromes, or sepsis. And methylene blue is predominantly reserved as a drug for methemoglobinemia. So remember that this is an exciting time for research workers. And in that exciting time of research workers, the potential adjuvant role of methylene blue is still under investigation. What may come out may be a nitric oxide spray, and that might stand the test of time. I'm reasonably certain that in another month or month and a half, there is a spray available in Europe of nitric oxide. There's a spray available in Canada and USA of nitric oxide in early COVID. First, again, 3 to 5 days. It will compete with this monoclonal antibody that will be available also in India, and Indians are already doing trials of that. So I hope that methylene blue is sorted out. What was the other question, Guru Anna?
Thank you. I would like to remind all the viewers that in a session we had taken on January 18th or 19th with Iqbal Chahal, our municipal commissioner, dynamic municipal commissioner, we had asked him a question whether you would vaccinate people who are at home, who are bedridden, and he had assured that we will reach the last Mumbaiker. And this has come to light when Mumbai High Court has really asked Bombay Municipal Corporation whether they would vaccinate people on the bed at home, and Mumbai MCGM has agreed. And what we thought about in January has come to light, and that's so beautiful. And Dr. Shashank, you were saying that after some time you will explain about the third wave and the fourth wave and the fifth wave and the sixth wave and what's going to happen, what's going to unfold in the future.
So we are still not out of the second wave. And the right way to get out of this, India 700 districts, probably 1/3 of them are out of it, or there is a decline. 1/3 of them are at the peak, and 1/3 of them probably are lower than the peak or probably don't have COVID. And as 2/3 of India is recovering, it's a very fast recovery. And the recovery is fast. The spread was also fast. And fortunately, the case fatality rate has been slower. Despite of wide clustering of this so-called variant of concern, two things are very clear. That every geography which had a test positivity rate above 5 or 10%, first the test positivity rate has to come below 5%. What I mean by test positivity, 100 people are there, then, and if you test all the 100, 5 will be positive. Then we are supposed to vaccinate all the 100 people. Unfortunately, we don't have sufficient vaccines. But I congratulate Government of India and all the state governments and the private sector that they will vaccinate the last mile, at least 70% of India. We will have at least 2 billion doses by the end of the year. If we are able to achieve that target, the so-called third or the fourth wave will be mutated or will be dented. So the fear is that after this wave, usually the cycle is it takes 3 to 6 months for the next wave to come. But that will depend on two things. If there is no variant of concern where the mutation is not large or major, and how people will behave as we ease the restrictions. So there are two good news of this week. The first good news of this week is the home injection of monoclonal antibodies, which I just described some time back. The second good news of this week is that there is a kit which is going to be a home testing kit. ICMR this week has approved a kit which is called as MyLab, and this kit can be picked up at 250 rupees from home. It can be enabled, and if you are COVID positive, in 20 minutes you will know whether you are positive or negative. So you don't have to go to a lab every time, but it's a rapid antigen test. So the limitation of this test is that if it is positive, it is 100% positive. But if it is negative, then you could still be positive after 3 to 5 days. So that is the big advantage of this novel kit, which is a Make in India, Made in India kit. And this is the MyLabs kits, and it's called as Secovi Self. And this is something going to be a game changer according to me. So detect early, isolate early, treat early, and recover early. That is going to be the new mantra. If we are able to do that, we'll be able to unlock appropriately, but you still need to double mask. And double masking, distancing, sanitizing, and vaccination are the 4 pillars. And the 5th pillar is early diagnosis, prompt isolation, prompt treatment, good monitoring. And COVID timetable, 14 to 21 days. After that, another timetable, 90 to 100 days for post-COVID care or the long COVID care. Also in long COVID, we should not forget it's not just about the mental health, the post-traumatic traumas, but it's also about cardiac, it's also about COVID diabetes, it's also about COVID heart health and COVID lung health, and beyond that, it could also be other unusual manifestations of COVID. So I think we are in best of times from a COVID
Hmm.
standpoint because we understand the disease a little better than before.
Hmm.
See, formerly, we were not having a grip on the pattern of the disease. So the
Hmm.
first wave came predominantly in people above 60. They had a higher case fatality rate. They also had a good recovery rate. The second wave has come in a little younger population, maybe 10 years younger population, not appreciably younger, faster spreading, but faster recovery and low case fatality rate. The third wave, which is likely to come after 3 to 6 months, it is likely to be in the less exposed population and probably will go back to the same group of people like the slum population of the first wave. It will be lesser than the second wave, but maybe a little more than the first wave. But it will be directly proportional to the public health interventions we'll do. So this home testing kit, which I told you, which is just launched now, and every chemist shop will have it, the MyLab COVID self test, is going to be a true game changer. But remember, it's a rapid antigen test. Rapid antigen test has sensitivity of around 60%. So 40% of the time it could be wrong. So if your test is negative, don't be under a false sense of security कि मेरे को अभी कुछ कोरोना नहीं है. That could actually be erroneous and you'll end up with more deaths. But it will, if you are positive, it will pick up early, isolate early. So I think we are we are actually on the third wave, likely to come in Mumbai anywhere from September to December, but we are not astrologers. COVID is predictably unpredictable, and it is likely to be less muted, and it is likely to even get delayed and deferred if we, as people at large, the population behaves itself, and we can break the chain of transmission. So, Anna, my question to you now, moving forward, with all these people hearing about third wave and fourth wave, one genuine challenge has happened, which a lot of my patients have started calling. They have started losing their sleep and they are getting insomnia. We also did a short dipstick sampling of 300 people through one of the medical students I have. And when she surveyed 300 people, general people, no COVID, non COVID, she found that if they were sleeping, say, 8 or 9 hours, now they are sleeping only 4 to 5 hours. So, on a mean average, Indians are sleeping 2 to 2.5 hours less than what they were sleeping during non COVID times. It's a concerning feature. They have anxiety, they have broken sleep, they are getting vivid dreams, and they suddenly get up in the morning with crying, with anxiety, with some of the patients, even actually not patients, but normal people have said that we get such bad dreams that we get up and we are fully wet in sweat. This is a very, very distressing signal. And is it a signal of trauma? Is it a signal of uncertainty? Is it a signal of fear? Should they rush to a psychiatrist? Should they rush to a counselor? Or just forget about it? And it also revives that should they sleep for a good 7 hours. So how does one handle insomnia in COVID times, or fractured sleep in COVID times, or inappropriate sleep in COVID times? And do you really feel for mental health good sleep is important, or it is just something which is an outlier and people will start sleeping normally as soon as everything is normal? Anna.
I think we cannot ignore insomnia at all during any catastrophe. And I agree with you that a lot of people are sleeping less, a lot of people are irritable, and a lot of kids are actually sleeping less also. Let us look at the big picture. The big picture is there is fear, there is scare, there is dialogues, negative narratives across. So there are three or four ways of handling it, but every person, every child would be different. Number one, can we have joy boosters? Just we have vaccine boosters, just we have protein boosters, just we have other form of fat boosters, etc. Can we have joy boosters? So there is a need to focus. There's a need to look at. and actively create joy. Actively create joy. Remember, joy is your birthright. Now you will say, how can you actively create joy in a situation where there's a lot of uncertainty? That is the secret. Actively create joy would mean generate laughter even in pain. You'll say, I'm mad. Yes, you have to be a little mad to be normal. Number two, generate muscle movement and physical movement when you are in pain. Number three, do more of relaxation exercise than you would have done when there was no catastrophe. Number four, try and practice yoga nidra. Number six, join the Yoga Institute Santa Cruz online classes for sleep and anxiety. Number seven, make small changes in diet so that you can sleep much better. Number eight, remember, after 5 o'clock, let do not. There's a lot of curiosity. ये स्टेट में कितना ऑक्सीजन है, वो स्टेट में कितना ऑक्सीजन है, कहाँ से ऑक्सीजन आता है, ऑक्सीजन वो जो इंडस्ट्रियल ऑक्सीजन और मेडिकल ऑक्सीजन में क्या फर्क है, उसकी वजह से कुछ होता है क्या? अरे बाबा, तर्क वितर्क चर्चा सत्र मंथन चिंतन will be done by the national committee appointed by the Supreme Court and by the government. So cut all this information and remember one thing, as we have said in the past, celebrate what you have, use a lot of color inside the house, create a rough routine and converse. Most of the people will be able to sleep better. Now, is it sleeping better or is it feeling good in the morning also? Both are extremely important. And if you have dreams, and those dreams are causing fractured sleep, I would say a late night insomnia or early morning insomnia or interrupted sleep. Again, what is important is make an active effort of giving yourself boosters of joy, making an active effort of sharing sadness, because sadness, when you share sadness, empathy improves. When you feel anxious, you find answers to anxiety. At the same time, see to it that you also continue your routine, talk less about COVID, talk to people who are talking positive, and get your sleep back. Sometimes home remedies for sleep is also useful. Yoga Nidra is a very good activity. Shambhavi Mahamudra, Shunya, Sudarshan Kriya, Pranayam, Vipassana, yoga as practiced by BK Shivani and the team, and different practices. Use a lot of meditative practice to get your sleep back. Now, if individually some people sleep less because somebody has a death in the family, that is normal. But as long as the grief is being managed by the family, then the sleep will come back to normal. If you have just come out of COVID from the hospital, and if your sleep is less, remember to find out whether you have panic attacks or you have tremendous palpitations at the time of sleep. Then do not wait. Take a medication from your doctor who's treating you for COVID, and that will help you. If you are able to also manage your mohalla and create a let's sleep mohim. Sometimes we have a mohim of uh, zero drugs in my mohalla. We have a mohim of 100% polio vaccine in my mohalla. So similarly, let's have a campaign. Let's sleep campaign. So we need to innovate public campaigns, healthy exercises, group activities, and high risk people should meet a psychologist or a psychiatrist. But loss of sleep can be because of stress, and if you don't handle stress properly, you can just give up and get depressed. So a lot of community awareness campaigns, individual interventions, yoga, and a lot of activities should be there around sleep. Now you'll say that everybody will not have a big house. Remember, the people who sleep on the road sleep much better than the people who are sleeping in AC in a big bedroom when they are inundated with thoughts of COVID. So at times, once the fear goes down, sleep might improve. But those who have intractable insomnia might have physical problems. They need to take treatment. Those who have insomnia with a lot of comorbidities, they need to manage the sleep so that the sugars and blood pressure are maintained. Those who have other illnesses which cause insomnia or insomnia aggravating the illness, they need to see a doctor. But let me tell you, insomnia is the window to other mental illnesses. And that is something we need to really manage. In my school, where we are doing a survey, we also also found the same, and we are trying to look at a sleep mohim inside our schools, where I'm in touch. So I would say sleep campaign, meditation, booster dose of happiness, medications when required.
Great.
So as we come close to the end of the show, Dr. Shashank Joshi, uh, I would say that hope is not only given by the psychiatrists, but hope should also be given by leaders or physicians who are seeing the big picture, who are looking at the forest and also the trees. And in that context, I would like you to give some simple homilies or simple nuggets of your wisdom for all our Corona warriors across the country, and all those like you and me and Anirudh Sapatnikar, ordinary citizens, ordinary people across the country, some practical tips to carry their carry their burden across one month. Because Shashank, you and me were talking about, let's think for the day, let's think for the week, let's think for the month. I had a patient who said, I'm going to do an MBA, but I don't know whether I will get a job after MBA, whether I'll get a job in India or abroad. I told him, young man, very intelligent man and a very bright man, and I told him, let's think about this month. Let's think about how will you cope in the MBA college. Let's think about how will you be in touch with your family, and let's think about how you'll manage your health in the college. And that's what I said. So nuggets of wisdom from Dr. Shashank Joshi, who was with the Prime Minister of India in the last Mann Ki Baat.
So, Guru Anna, we have to keep it simple. So much of negativity around, you need to have immunity from negativity. So, the first vaccine we need is a vaccine for our mind, which is to have immunity from all negativity, whether it is death, whether it is hearing some near and dear one being serious in the hospital. COVID in this wave has affected every living household on planet Earth, and India is no exception. And we are getting better. We need to think positive, but behave sensibly and behave rationally. So, first thing is, do not give up at all. Better times are here to come. We are already on the path to recovery, and we will recover and we will be out of it. Secondly, is control your impulse, control your impatience. You need to take your time for you to move out. So that is what is actually the biggest challenge with Indians. We are very impatient, argumentative, irritable Indians. We need to be calm, sthita prajna, meditating Indians, the way our ancestors were. At the same time, we need to be responsible, not reckless. We need to be responsible not only to our own selves, but people around us, whether they are family, friends, or professional colleagues. So I think three things are: be vigilant. COVID times, if you get any symptom which you remotely think is COVID, get yourself tested and isolate yourself. People may call you paranoid, but sometimes as a false alarm also, if you self-isolate, it doesn't hurt. Number two, if you isolate, immediately make other family members wear a mask and you keep away from them. It will prevent the cluster transmission and break the chain. Number three is, if you get positive, then follow the 14 to 21 day timetable. Right drug for the right patient under a digitally connected care system. Most people will still recover. And then keep a close follow-up for 90 to 100 days. Now, the point is that with so much of negativity, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. I can see that if we are able to saturate our country with vaccination by end of this year, I feel in April 2022, probably we'll see a COVID-free India and a COVID-free world. When I mean that COVID-free India or COVID-free world, what I mean is that we need to start a movement in each of the geography where stay, whether it's a small village, a small part of a urban ghetto, a small little society or house where you live, try to get into a corona-free space. For which, what do you need to do? It is not a brainer at all. Just be a little careful, just be a little mindful, practice a little gratitude, practice a little kindness, and spread the word of positivity. So positivity should not be the COVID positivity. It should be the positivity of a very, positive mind. And as I said, Guru Anna, you have also said this before, the virus in the mind, if we are able to control well with resilience, positivity, and happiness, with some sense of gratitude and some sense of humility, COVID has made all of us very humble. And the more humble you will get, and the faster you will become humble, the faster you will grow out of COVID phobia and likelihood of getting COVID. The more impulse you will get, the more restless you will get, the more angry you will get, your likelihood of picking up COVID is going to go up. So, Guru Anna, these are my final take home message. Stay safe, stay sensible, sleep well, be happy, have some degree of gratitude, be grateful to the Almighty that you're living the day and you're living the night, and this time shall pass. We will have much better days, but currently we are stuck. We will get out of this well, and I'm really positive that by April 2022, we will be back into an era, as I popularly call, we are in during COVID era. The pre-COVID era or the before Corona era is gone, but we'll soon be in the AC era after Corona era. And that is what, if we have that Dridhanashya, because we are all living in a Vasudeva Kutumbam, which is the world and planet Earth. If we make up our mind that we can have a corona-free world across us, and we can achieve that last mile through a little masking, double masking, a little bit of distance and sanitization, a little bit of vaccination without hesitancy, a little bit of sensibility with a smile, with a lot of sleep and ensuring that we stay healthy, stay corona free, I think we will be in a much better world, because we will be able to manage not only COVID, but I think it allows us to introspect, it allows us to become better human beings, and it makes us a little more humbler. Anna, your final take home message.
Absolutely. I think just remember the acronym KICK, K-I-C-K. I repeat what he said. K is kindness, I is inoculation here, and stress adaptation and inoculation of the mind, which is happening. C is be connected, and again K for kindness. With this, we stop. You might have understood that this is actually a recorded show. Let us apologize to all our viewers that we have been in this 24/7, and there are a lot of exigencies and emergencies which has forced us to record this show. We'll come again live and answer all the remaining questions. Until that time, please give us your best wishes also for us to survive, as we share our wishes to all our viewers and those who are not our viewers, and to every human being and every living creature on the earth, because lions have also got COVID in a zoo. And with this, as Shashank said, we pray for the Vasudeva Kutumbam and see that the entire earth and the entire universe is peaceful. Thank you, Anirudh, always the
Thank you so
producer,
much.
director, writer, and everything. And we are
Thank you so
both
much.
just actors. Shashank, as usual, we have attempted to allay brilliantly, and that entire discourse on methylene blue was a lecture for an ordinary citizen and for a medical student. It was beautifully said. Thank you again, and let's come back again at 12 o'clock next Sunday with
Thank
you
you so much.
guys. And please remember, Anirudh has taken a lot of trouble making these videos. Please share these videos and the YouTube links to everybody whom you know, with your friends and your foes. You never know who may be helped, whose life may be saved by listening to nuggets of wisdom of Guru Anna, Dr. Shashank Joshi, and Anirudh Sapatnikar. Good
Thank you
evening,
so
good
much.
afternoon. Have your lunch. Take care.